Hey there, everyone, and welcome to episode 82 of Halfway Through the Heat, the world's most stupendous cross-Pacific. That's trans-Pacific. Wrestling.
Trans-Pacific.
So,
you're messing up our brand.
I'm messing up our brand. I always mess it up. Can't help it. But things I'm not messing up today is what we're talking about. We've got a bunch of news. We've got some Hardys feuding with Impact Wrestling news. We've got some injuries, a couple of people returning from injuries. More wrestlers in jail. Someone you wouldn't be surprised is in jail, though. Bizarre claims from AJ Styles. And we've got, we're going to talk a bit about Shine 41, which we watched together. And we're going to look at the More Than Mania thing that's happening. And some possible Mania matchups. And before we get into all that, though, we are going to say something positive about Raw. So, Tom, what was your positive thing about Raw this week?
I kind of like the way they set up they furthered the Owens-Jericho feud and also the Samoa Joe Sami Zayn feud. Having Owens and Samoa Joe look like the despicable, deplorable guys, and I also like that they're letting Jericho kind of continue on with the list. Like, they haven't turned him completely happy, smiley babyface. I think he's at his best when he's kind of sarcastic and funny. So I'm glad they're not completely like switching him to be like, heroic John Cena-esque babyface guy.
Yeah, he's good as Chris Jericho being Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
People want to cheer for him regardless. As long as he doesn't call them stupid idiots, they'll cheer for him.
That's right.
So, the heel Jericho and the face Jericho are basically just like one insults the crowd and one does not.
I was impressed at how over Mick Foley was in his segment with Triple H and Stephanie. Like, the crowd really was behind Mick Foley, which is interesting because I have not been all that happy with Mick Foley's
I'm not
work.
I'm not a big Mick Foley fan in the first place. So, it's the kind of thing where, when he comes back, I just feel like, But, the crowd was really behind him, and when he got the Sacco return on Triple H.
Yeah.
That was...
People went nuts for that.
People were excited. That's the only thing that he's qualified to do in the ring anymore.
I know. Well, he's going out for hip surgery, right?
Yeah. Well, even after hip surgery, he's not going to be able to do any type of wrestling.
No. Although he has lost a lot of weight. He looks really good.
Oh, that's true. He's slightly cleaned up a bit, too.
He's slightly cleaned up a bit. He doesn't look... He still looks homeless, but he looks like recently homeless.
Yeah, or maybe like a homeless guy who occasionally works at those work today, pay today places, and sometimes stays at a hotel or something.
Right, yeah, he's homeless, but he doesn't spend all his money on booze and drugs. You think oh man, this guy just had some bad breaks, not like you think this guy's in trouble.
Yeah. So
we don't mean to disparage homeless people, and if any homeless people are listening to this podcast, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in.
You're wasting your homeless time.
I like the absolute brutal clip job that Braun Strowman did on Roman Reigns on the ramp.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That was sweet. I mean, that was a really nice. It just came out of nowhere with that. I guess it was a shoulder tackle or maybe a lariat, but he just. I mean, and Roman, to Roman's credit, he sold that really well. But I mean, that looked genuinely painful.
That was good. There's an animated GIF of it, where it looks like he's killed him. It's great.
I saw an animated GIF, and it looked really good, and the caption on Twitter was when you get the direct deposit and all your bills come due at the same time.
Oh.
I've been there. We've all been there. Those of us with direct deposit and bills. So not the many homeless people listening to this. That's not the reference they'll get. But yeah, that was overall it was an alright show. I mean, I I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but to agree with the internet, Smarky Smarks, but 3 hours feels long.
Yeah, well, like it's the kind of thing where if you watch it live, it feels long because there's all the commercials.
Yes.
If you watch it afterwards, like it's a clean 2 hours with no commercials, and you just feel like that's all right.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's just like when you
Um,
watch it live, it's like they're constantly interrupting with commercials, and there's you know,
yeah, they're a lot of the stuff that you can just sort of fast forward through. You have to watch it, but I watch it live. I do it. That's my commitment. I watch it live. Where I think SmackDown, it's much more compressed, and it feels like when it ends, often on SmackDown, I'm like, oh, it's over? Shoot. Whereas Raw, when it finally limps to a conclusion, I'm like, good. Finally, it's over. And it's more than 3 hours, too. They always overrun 11 o'clock.
Oh wait. They they mentioned that the Big Show is going to be in the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial Battle Royal at Mania. So
Oh man. To go from a showcase match with Shaquille O'Neal to one of the entrants in the pre-show Battle Royal. Ouch.
well, okay. I guess that's Shaq match is over then.
As we've been saying all along, wasn't going to happen.
Shaq match has been totally beat. I forgot they mentioned that on Raw in the New Day backstage segment.
Oh, that's right, because they're going to be hosting Mania. That's not going to wear thin over 9 hours or however long WrestleMania is this year. One thing I'll say that's not so positive about Raw, and I know I'm straying from the purpose of our segment and maybe getting a little off-brand, but man, Nia Jax is not a good enough wrestler to be in so many high-profile matches.
No, she's not.
They keep giving her a lot of time with people who are good wrestlers, like Sasha Banks and Bayley, and all it does is expose Nia Jax's weaknesses and makes you bored when Bayley and Sasha Banks come out because you're like, oh, a Nia Jax match.
Yeah, Nia Jax. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with her. It's not like she's like a Braun Strowman, but worse.
Whereas Braun Strowman kind of she doesn't even have the same versatility he does. You know who they're pushing her as if she were Vanessa Craven on the Indies. You know Vanessa Craven, that giant wrestler in Shine.
Yeah.
She's actually good. Like she is what Nia Jax is supposed to be.
Yeah, no, you're right. Now that I think about it, they kind of look similar.
They do look kind of similar.
They have a similar look, and they have a similar kind of ring gear.
Yeah, Vanessa Craven is like has a more athletic body type, but they're basically the idea is the same. Like they're like the giant. They're like the equivalent of a female Braun Strowman or something. Like not even a hoss, just like a monster.
They're an Asian Kong.
Yeah. But Vanessa Craven can actually move around and do stuff.
Yeah.
And Nia Jax cannot. Not as well. I mean, she's not horrible. She's not abominable.
She is sort of in the Fabulous Moolah school of wrestling, though, where all of her stuff are those hair throws and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like a splash in the corner or something, where it's like, eh.
Yeah.
And part of that is too, she's new. Like she hasn't been wrestling for very long, But I have no insight into the backstage politics of WWE, but she is The Rock's cousin.
She's got wrestling in her blood, Tom.
They love those families, those wrestling families. Samoan dynasty. Vanessa Craven is not Samoan, so it doesn't work out for her. But that's if you want to see kind of what they're going for with Nia Jax, just watch some Vanessa Craven matches, because that's what they're going for.
Basically,
particularly her match against Su Yung, which was really good on Shine. Anyway, so that was Raw. It was all right. It feels like we're lurching towards Mania at this point. It's still so far away.
Yeah, I can't believe how far away it is. You were saying that you can't believe there's not a pay-per-view coming.
I know. I was looking at this weekend and what they've trained me well to expect a pay-per-view every 2 weeks. But let's get to the news, because there's some news. It's kind of a lawyers, guns, and money episode of our news segment. And maybe the most delightful news is the ongoing saga of Impact Wrestling versus the Hardys. So Impact Wrestling sent cease and desist letters to pay-per-view providers, trying to scare pay-per-view providers that were carrying Ring of Honor's 15th anniversary show on Friday. Which, by the way, Christopher Daniels, as we predicted, won the Ring of Honor Championship. Congratulations, Christopher Daniels. So Impact, the Hardys do not have contracts with Impact Wrestling. So I'm not really sure what the cease and desist letters were. I assume it has to do with the whole broken Brother Nero stuff, because Anthem, the owner of Impact Wrestling, is claiming that they own that intellectual property. So Dish Network actually pulled the Ring of Honor show. You could not watch 15th anniversary Ring of Honor pay-per-view on Dish Network because they got scared. None of the other pay-per-view carriers pulled the show because it's sort of a ludicrous claim. Like whether or not the claim has merit in terms of who owns the intellectual property, like threatening a broadcaster that you can't show these people on television, that as lawyers would say, that is without merit.
Indeed. That's gonna be that's bad news. Bad form, TNA.
Bad form, TNA. And TNA, or Impact Wrestling, how dare you? One of their executives on Twitter said that all the broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero stuff was created by Jeremy Borash, Billy Corgan, and Dave Lagana. Have not heard yet from Borash, Lagana, or Billy Corgan. I'm sure there was input from people other than the Hardys, but the idea that like Matt and Jeff had nothing to do with those characters is a little implausible to me.
Yeah, that seems not true. I imagine that's totally false, actually. There's no way that Matt Hardy being a weirdo is not something Matt Hardy thought of.
Yeah, because look at Jeff Hardy's entire career. Like Will-O-the-Wisp and like the way they're weirdos, and they've always been weirdos. Forever and ever they've been weirdos. And they're weirdos in like a very specific kind of southern rednecky weirdo way, like the kids who are really into Korn in high school.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely true.
And like really like when they finally get some money, the first thing they do is they spend it on a big full length dragon tattoo on their arm, like that kind of weirdo. That's who they are. So Matt and Jeff haven't really said much. However, Rebby Hardy, Matt's wife, you owe it to yourself to go to her Twitter feed because it is a delight. It's as delightful as that delightful xylophone. She pulled no punches. Among the things she tweeted were, "Can we just talk about how many times Matt's contract could have been broken due to numerous issues on TNA's end and never made a fuss about shit, but motherfuckers want to try and come at us now after the fact." She went after Dish Network. She said, "Don't ever want to hear anyone talk about burning bridges when this move, which fucks Ring of Honor, leaves the most ashes behind." Her best tweet absolutely was "fuck that owl" in reference to the Impact Wrestling owl, who they're having a contest to get fans to name the owl. Even before the cease and desist and all that happened, I had proposed on Twitter that they name it Hecate, Mistress of Catastrophes. I don't know if that'll be the winner.
That should be the name.
People have been getting blocked by, I should say also, people have been getting blocked by Impact Wrestling by suggesting jokey names for the owl. Like, they do not have a sense of humor about it.
Did you get blocked?
I didn't get blocked. The thing is, you shouldn't ask people on the internet to name your mascot and then not expect people to fuck with you.
That's how you get things like Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah, that's exactly how you get things like Bodie McBoatface. Like, what are you doing? Have people send in a postcard, because you're immediately going to eliminate 90% of the trolls.
Yeah.
But no, so she said fuck that owl. That has already become like a thing. There's a fuck that owl t-shirt you can get from the Hardys. Fans at the Ring of Honor show had fuck that owl signs. And kudos to those fans. That's quick thinking.
Well, I mean, to make a sign, you could do that within an hour.
I know, but still to be aware of what's happening on Twitter and be like, hey, we need poster board, we need a marker. Fuck
That's
that owl.
awesome.
So things are kind of rocky at Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, relationships are strained.
The first I didn't see it actually. The first episode of the new tapings where like Alberto El Patron or whatever the fuck he's calling himself, where he won their title and all that. Like the reviews have been scathing.
Oh.
People have been pretty positive about Impact up until like Tape Machines. If you go to he'd been pretty positive about Impact, and he talked about how it reminded him of that horrible episode or the horrible pay-per-view of the WWE version of ECW that got Paul Heyman fired. Like it's that bad.
Oh, damn.
And he said it was so bad it's actually plausible to him that what Jeff Jarrett is doing is trying to deliberately kill the company so he can start Global Force Wrestling from its ashes. Like it was that bad.
That's high levels of bad.
I haven't seen it, but that's not a good. That's not a good. And but part of the thing too is like they have these really old guys backstage doing creative stuff, like Dutch Mantell and Bruce Pritchard. I mean, these are not guys you want running a wrestling promotion in 2017.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think those guys are smart about wrestling, but like they're probably a little not up to date on the latest meme culture.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Billy Corgan. It's going to sound weird, but Billy Corgan, really kind of knew what was good about wrestling, and that's one of the reasons that his shows worked so well. Is like he had a sense of what's good now, and he let the Hardys kind of run with their crazy idea. Well, at the same time, like the in-ring stuff was really good when Billy Corgan was there. You kind of need someone who's not going to be like, this is the way we did it in Memphis in 1983.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I don't know. I don't feel like those guys specifically are bad. I just think possibly they're not living up to the Billy Corgan level of goodness.
And Jeff Jarrett is 100% bad. I am not going to back down from that.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll agree with that.
Jeff Jarrett's creative instincts are not great.
What do you mean, slap nuts?
I mean, I just I don't know. We'll see. I guess I'll have to watch the episode before I shit on it. But when people who are sort of giving Impact Wrestling a chance, and who have and people who've said like, I want to see all wrestling companies succeed, when they're like, this was terrible, you have to say like, oh, maybe something's wrong here. And also, when like 20% of your wrestlers all leave in the same week.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
Yeah. Anyway, go to Rebby Hardy's Twitter account. One thing I learned from reading her tweets is that Senor Benjamin is her father.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I did not know that either.
Yeah.
Well, that means Senor Benjamin has also left TNA.
He has also left TNA. That's right. He's so wherever the Hardys go, they're going to bring Senor Benjamin to prepare the battlefield for massacre.
Awesome.
Some jumping. Speaking of TNA, I don't know if you saw Kurt Angle. He did an interview with Corey Graves for the WWE Network this week, and they never mentioned TNA on WWE programming, which I think is petty and stupid, but whatever. But Corey Graves asked him, it's like, you left WWE 11 years ago and you did all this other stuff, and the only thing he would say about the 11 years he spent in TNA was he just went, it wasn't the right move. Oh, you're in the Hall of Fame, buddy. Doesn't the TNA or the Impact or whatever, the Owl Hall of Fame mean something to you? Fuck that owl. But one thing he said that I was sort of interested in is that he doesn't know who's inducting him into the Hall of Fame, and he was kind of surprised that he doesn't get to pick. I'm not surprised he doesn't get to pick because Vince McMahon is a control freak who doesn't want to let anyone else make a decision that he could make himself. But it is interesting that they haven't told him yet who's going to be inducting him because it's coming up. So I wanted to ask you, who do you think would be a good choice to induct Kurt Angle into the WWE Hall of Fame?
It's a good question. I don't know.
And why is it Jeff Jarrett?
Jeff Jarrett.
I don't know either.
It should be Jeff Jarrett's wife.
Yeah, she's back on TV apparently. That's just what people wanted to see.
You know, because she left him for Jeff Jarrett, so it's... you know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Wow. Awkward.
Karen Jarrett used to be Karen Angle.
That's right. Wow, I had forgotten that.
So, you know.
Awkward.
A little awkward. Should be her.
Probably won't be her. I mean, if Vince McMahon is kidnapped by aliens, he's kidnapped by Xenu and taken to the home planet or whatever, and for some reason they come to me and they're like, "You're the new chairman of WWE. Who inducts Kurt Angle?" First of all, what a strange chain of events, and why would that be the first question they would ask me? I would say Danny Hodge, who is a legendary collegiate wrestler, legendary Olympic wrestler, and then became a legendary professional wrestler, who is still alive. And I think just based on Kurt Angle's career arc, that would be a great induction. It won't be Danny Hodge. But I would like that, or just someone who has that kind of like maybe amateur background or like shoot fighting reputation, because again, that's part of his appeal is that he was a guy who like did this better than anyone in the world in the Olympics, and then was able to come in and do it really well at a really high level as a pro, which is obviously a completely different skill set. But I don't know. I'm sure they'll pick someone who they think because again, this is for a giant live audience, so I'm sure they're going to pick someone who they think people will know. Danny Hodge does not fit the bill, sadly. Jerry Briscoe would also be a good choice, another good amateur wrestler who became a great pro. But I don't know. Who do you think?
I have no idea who they're going to choose. It's just gonna be The Rock.
Yeah, he had like during the Attitude Era, he had those feuds with The Rock and Stone Cold and Chris Benoit. Obviously, not gonna be Chris Benoit. But like The Rock it doesn't feel like, I don't know. When I think of like, it's kind of strange actually, because when I think of like Kurt Angle, I really liked him in WWE and I thought he was fantastic. But I don't think of him as having like an opposite number, the way Shawn Michaels had with Bret Hart, or the way Stone Cold had with The Rock.
No.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, or like like who like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Like I don't think of like Kurt Angle as having a guy who's the obvious choice. As like when you think about like a matched pair. Maybe actually Chris Benoit's maybe the closest. But so I don't know. We'll see. I'll be interested to see who introduces all of the Hall of Famers. Like who are they going to get for Teddy Long?
Ahmed Johnson.
I'll be surprised if Beth Phoenix isn't introduced by Natalya.
You think Edge will do that one?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that might make, because he's a bigger name. I don't know. I hope they bring. I hope Sting does DDP, or maybe I don't know. Some WCW person, really, because that's where DDP became a star.
True.
David Arquette. Hope it's David Arquette.
David Arquette. That's who we all want to see.
If he was a bigger star, that would be David Arquette.
David Arquette still has time to become a bigger star.
He does. No, that's true. That's fair. That's a good point. David Arquette could surprise us with a late career renaissance. I can't count out David Arquette. Shame on me.
Suddenly he's like the hottest actor for his
right.
for his heartwarming and moving dramatic roles.
Well, here's the thing: he can't become too big a star because then you don't want to be associated with WWE.
Yeah, but because he loves wrestling so much,
that's true, and he legitimately does. He legitimately does. He's a wrestling fan, and he donated the money he made for WCW to wrestlers who had been injured. So he'll always be okay in my book because of that. He also did not want to be world champion.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like a bad dude.
He does not. He was just put in a very bad situation by drunk with power Vince Russo.
The worst kind of Vince Russo.
Yeah, Vince Russo at his worst point. Anyway, so I have no idea who's going to introduce Angle. Angle apparently has no idea who's going to introduce him. It's not going to be Danny Hodge, although that would be a great choice. I have some injury reports. Some good news and some bad news on injuries. Let's start with the bad news. Let's get that out of the way. Cedric Alexander, one of the cruiserweights, who had briefly been a standout when he was in the only thing that qualified as an angle in 205 Live. He's out. He's hurt for 3 to 5 months with a knee injury, which is not good. But he's a really good wrestler. He'll be back. I like Cedric Alexander a lot. I feel like a lot of the indies kind of missed the boat on him, and he was just getting kind of a chance to show his stuff in WWE. The problem with 205 Live right now is that it's like, do you remember the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns went to the doctor and they told him he had every disease, and the guy showed him by having a little thing with those little stuffed animals all stuck in a doorway?
Yeah.
I picture the cruiserweights as being all those stuffed animals stuck in a doorway. They can't. They put the belt on somebody and they give someone the spotlight for 2 weeks and they panic because the crowd isn't reacting, and then they switch it to someone else. So, I feel like they've just got to calm down and stop freaking out over the way the division's being received. And part of it is because I just think they need to stop presenting the division the way they've been presenting it. But anyway, Cedric Alexander is a real talent, and hopefully he's back soon. Probably this summer. See him on 205 Live if that's still happening in the summer.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, that's no good.
Another injury, Rusev. This was a surprise. I didn't realize this, but you pointed it out. Rusev is out with a shoulder injury. Just had his shoulder surgery. We don't know how long he's out for, but he's definitely not going to be at WrestleMania.
Definitely not at WrestleMania because he had shoulder surgery last week. But apparently they were saying that that even people watching him on TV were commenting that his shoulder looked weird. So it was apparently an actual injury that wasn't noticeable to other people.
Yikes.
Physically noticeable. So, must have been something harsh.
I like Rusev a lot, and that's a bummer. But
it's weird that people that you normally wouldn't like, you started to like.
Yes.
And it's obviously they've just gotten better over time, but previously Rusev shows up and you're just like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%.
But
100%.
Now Rusev, he's
Yeah. I like Baron Corbin now, whereas before I was like, oh come on, this guy. But he's gotten better. It's when you see someone improve, that's the thing too. I think some people are unwilling to concede that people can improve. Like The Miz.
Oh yeah, The Miz is a good example.
If you had told me 3 years ago The Miz would be one of my favorite things about WWE TV, I'd be like, do I get hit in the head or something? What happens to me that I start appreciating shit wrestling? He's become so good. The interview he had last week on Talking Smack where him and Maurice just tore into John Cena and Nikki Bella, uncomfortable. I loved it. It was so good. Just where he was oh, I'm John Cena. Here, I'll make Nikki Bella sign this contract to be my girlfriend because I need to have a girl. Ouch. But anyway, yeah, no. So I think some people just need to calm down and I like Rusev a lot. He's a lot of fun now, but it's a shame that he's hurt. I hope he's back soon. I guess the fact that he's not in WrestleMania is why the Big Show is now being bumped to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Yeah. Poor Big Show. His last WrestleMania.
And he's in the pre-show Battle Royal. And let's be clear. Battle Royals or Battles Royal suck. Unless they're in the Rumble format. When it just starts out and there's 20 or 30 guys in the ring all together, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, that always sucks.
It's never good until the last 4 guys are in the ring together. That's
it's always terrible, but also it's really awful in the beginning because when you have that many people in the ring, the first bunch is always just like a cluster of dudes pretending to hit each other because there's no room to do anything else.
It's awful.
And then you have a big rash right in the beginning of people getting thrown out because who cares? So it's not even a big it's not there's no build up to it, there's no excitement. It's just oh, here's a bunch of people just got eliminated. Now we're down to the people we actually care about.
Yeah, it's and especially when you have a giant in the ring like Big Show, so much of the battle royal is just 9 smaller guys trying to throw him out, and not 16. He's holding on to the rope. Oh god, it's so boring. It's so predictable. If you've seen one battle royal, truly, you've seen them all.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
So it's too bad the Big Show is whatever. I don't care. I mean, I guess I don't have any ill will toward the man. I was not a fan of the Big Show in the 90s, and I am really not a big fan of the Big Show in 2017.
That is also my position. Not a big fan of the Big Show.
I did like it when he was in WCW and he was going against Hogan, and they had a monster truck battle on the roof of Cobo Hall in Detroit. It's my favorite Big Show moment.
And the Big Show fell off?
The Big Show fell off, the roof of Cobo Hall, and miraculously didn't die, but in fact came into the building to wrestle Hulk Hogan. This is pre-NWO. In some ways, that's my favorite period of WCW. The era when Hulk Hogan was in WCW but had not yet turned heel. It's amazing to go back and look at some of those episodes of Nitro. They had one. I'm sorry, I won't get. This is a tangent, but they had one where the Dungeon of Doom was going after Hulk Hogan, and to destroy his power, they shaved his mustache. And he wore, and then Hulk Hogan dressed all in black on that episode because his mustache had been shaved. That was a good time. That was a good time for wrestling. All right, so Rusev's hurt. Hopefully he's back soon. However, speaking of people who are hurt and are back, Hideo Itami and Finn Balor are back, not on TV. Hideo Itami showed up at a house show and just stomped ass on 2 dudes who were in the ring. I don't even know who they were, but he just came in the ring and just was cleaning house and hit one guy with the go to sleep. Looked really good. Looks like he's in fighting trim. Looked angry. Looked determined. And Finn Balor came back at a house show in Buffalo. So there's nothing for them before Mania weekend because all the storylines for NXT and the main roster are set. But presumably those guys will be back on TV shortly after WrestleMania.
All right. So that'll be good. It'll be good to have those guys back. Probably not great for Sami Zayn, who is rumored to have be not involved in bigger angles anymore since those guys are back.
Oh, he's like the purest babyface in the company, and they really should keep him at that level. But I definitely can see why Vince doesn't get Sami Zayn.
Yeah, he's not Attitude Era enough.
Yeah, and I can see why Vince gets Braun Strowman. You can see how Vince's mind works.
That is absolutely true. I can totally see why Vince would be really hot on Braun Strowman and not so hot on Sami Zayn.
But I can also see why Vince would be really big on Austin Aries, which is apparently the case. Vince apparently loves Austin Aries. I think because he's got that swagger. I think Vince gets that. Whereas Sami Zayn's appeal, Vince doesn't get the underdog thing.
Speaking of that swagger, we didn't mention this on our list here, but Jack Swagger released from WWE. He had requested a release, and it took a couple of weeks, but he got his release.
How long before we see Swag Jagger appear in the Impact Zone?
I think his real name is Jake Hager or something. So just show up as his real name, and it'll feel like one of those fake Impact Wrestling names. Jack Swagger, Jake Hagar is in the Impact Zone. You're just that's Jack Swagger. Actually, no one would say that because no one remembers what he looks like.
Oh, They could bring him in. He strikes me as a guy who would have been pretty good in he's not a bad wrestler, but like he's just kind of bland. I think he could have had a really fun run in old WCW. Like they would have known what to do with him. Whereas I think WWE was just like
they would have teamed him up with Das Wunderkind.
He would have had he would have been one of those guys who had like really memorable mid card matches, and then you'd try to tell your friends, you're like, no, go back and watch that old pay per view. Jack Swagger was really good. And then you go back and watch, you're like, this guy was better than I remember. What happened to him? And why was his gimmick that he was a pirate?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Swagger released. Good luck to Jack Swagger. I'm sure he'll be doing something in the Indies. Speaking of a guy who got released and has been doing stuff in the Indies but has not been doing anything in the Indies in 2017, guess who's in jail?
Teddy Hart?
Good guess. It's always a good guess when the question is who's in jail. Teddy Hart's in jail, according to Pro Wrestling Sheet.
It's not
Teddy Hart.
If you say this wrestler is in jail, you would just guess Teddy Hart. But like the question after that is, what's he in jail for this time?
Right. No, that's a good question. And this time, it's just a series of small charges, or I guess smaller charges. He was stopped by a police officer in Arlington, Texas, on New Year's Day for a hazardous traffic violation. That's just a ticket, right? But he made the mistake of trying to escape the police, and then that gets a little more serious. Ultimately, he was charged with that and with DUI and operating a vehicle without consent of the owner, which sounds a little bit like stealing a car of someone you know. Court records show he has 2 additional charges tacked onto, one for injury to a child elderly disabled person and another for possession of a controlled substance.
I like to imagine he actually injured a disabled elderly child.
That would be impressive. We don't have any more details on those 2 charges because the investigation is still ongoing. However, his trial, he has a court date set for March 20th. That'll be Monday, March 20th. He'll be appearing in court in Arlington, Texas. He is still in jail. He's locked up. He has not been out of jail since January 1. Nobody apparently is willing to bail Teddy Hart out of jail. I'm shocked by that.
Yeah. Well, I remember us talking about this before when we were saying, like, when your brother is Bret Hart, who is like a legit millionaire, and he's not willing to put up like the $5,000 or whatever it's going to cost to get you out of jail, you're probably not going to get anybody to do it.
Not Teddy Hart's first brush with the law by any means.
Well, at least it wasn't for raping someone this time.
At least it wasn't for raping someone. It was just car stuff, although maybe assaulting an elderly disabled child. That might be a category in Texas. It simply might be.
It's true. We don't know about Texas. There's all types of weird laws.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Texas. I've been there. I've been to Dallas. I've been to Arlington, actually, where Teddy Hart is currently in prison, or in jail. Lock up. Well, anyway, so March 20th, it may just be initial appearance before the judge. I don't know where they are in the legal process. If that's a trial date, then Teddy Hart has already entered a plea and everything, and that should be interesting. We'll keep you posted on the legal state of affairs of Teddy Hart, the most troubled member of the Hart family, which is saying something.
That's a title you don't want to have.
No, it's like being like the unluckiest Von Erich.
Who would you say is the unluckiest Von Erich?
Definitely. Was it Mike? Who was the one who like absolutely had no business being in a wrestling ring and nearly died of toxic shock, and his dad made him go back in the wrestling ring?
I don't know. Was that? I'd have to look it up. Because like they all blend together into one horrible tragedy to me.
The good wrestlers were Kerry, David, and Kevin, and then there was the brother who was not good. And there were 2 brothers who were not good. One of them wrestled, one of them never did.
Well, one of them had got brain damage. Is that the same one?
Yeah, from toxic shock.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was Mike.
That was Mike, yeah. Had to look it up, but you're right.
That was Mike. Chris was the other brother who never wrestled. But both Chris and Mike committed suicide, as did
Wait.
Carrot.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Jeez. The Von Erichs. It's man. What was that
Oh, it's like
documentary that we watched?
the Heroes of World Class.
Yeah, the Heroes of World Class. Jesus, you watch that and it's like it's a horror show.
It really, yeah, because it's. I mean, it's not even just them. It's like everyone in that promotion, like Gino Hernandez and like like these just people like dying. They're dropping like flies. Um, but yeah, but the Hearts also no strangers to tragedy. And not just Owen, the well known. I mean, if you look into and like people they married, like Davy Boy Smith, and like if you sort of look into the Hart family, there's a really good book about the Stampede Wrestling and the Harts. It's worth reading, and it makes you think like, boy, if it wasn't for the Von Erichs, the Harts would have been the most sort of like misfortunate wrestling family. But the Von Erichs are just they're a class by themselves. It's just they were so popular, and then it just becomes like this horror show.
Yeah, geez. I mean, when you watch that documentary, it's set up really well because like they show you like the high times where it's like everything is going awesome for
Yep.
world class, and then like there is a steep decline, and then there's like the most depressing interview ever with who is it?
Kevin Von Erich.
Kevin Von Erich, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Where he's talking about like his dad was trying to kill him and stuff, or like told him
Yeah.
he was like
That's right. Yeah,
should
his
kill
dad.
himself or whatever.
His dad gave him a gun and was like, "You won't shoot yourself because you don't have the guts that your brothers did," and he's still like, "But I know my dad really loved me." Oh man, it is hair raising. It is intense.
Oh yeah, it's not exciting to watch. It's really depressing. They go through the old building where they used to hold the shows in Texas.
Yeah, the world famous Dallas Sportatorium. Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's just about to be torn down. It's like it's like a horror movie without any special effects or like supernatural things.
Yeah, it's pretty harrowing. You should if you haven't seen that, you should watch it. I believe it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it is. There was a real sanitized version that the WWE made called The Rise and Fall of, I think it's called The Rise and Fall of World Class. That's okay, but it's not nearly as, like they airbrushed so much of the history. And like Fritz Von Erich, instead of being this kind of like monster, he's more of like he was just a headstrong patriarch kind of thing. It's Heroes of World Class is the one to watch. If you only watch one documentary on world class wrestling, world class championship wrestling. Because it's hard to think of wrestlers who were more over than they were over in Dallas. Like, they were more popular than the Dallas Cowboys. They were so popular, the three Von Erichs, David, Kevin, and Kerry. They were like rock stars. I mean, they really, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but like they really were, like they had like crowds of screaming teenage girls following them everywhere. Like, they were so huge, and they became sort of nationally popular, and then just everything started to fall apart after David died in Japan, actually, of drugs. Although they've always tried to say it was something else. But like all the wrestlers who were on that tour with him were like talking about how they were like flushing drugs down the toilet before the police got there. And
yeah, geez. So yeah, that's we have totally veered off from our story about Teddy Hart, but
but anyway, Teddy Hart's in jail and has a trial coming up. Our last piece of news is so I was delighted. It was 2 weeks ago, maybe on Talking Smack, where Daniel Bryan called AJ Styles a flat earther, and AJ got really mad, and like really defensive. He's like, "I'm not a flat earther," and I was like, "Well, there must be something there, because otherwise you just laugh it off." AJ was asked about this on the Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast, which is well worth a listen. Sam Roberts, good dude, and said, among other things, AJ Styles quoted, "I watch all the stuff about aliens. I'm a sci-fi guy. I just enjoy that stuff and conspiracy theories. That intrigues me. So there are just a number of things. I could have killed Daniel Bryan for saying that, because now you get all the stuff. God, shut up. Please don't get that started, because I'll never hear the end of it. But it's interesting." I find a lot of things interesting when it comes to science fiction or fact. I don't know. Who can say? The only person that ever told me or told the world what other planets exist is NASA. But there's a reason they're making a lot of money. A lot of money. Just an aside here, NASA's not making a lot of money.
NASA is hemorrhaging money. But also, you can actually get out a telescope and look at other planets.
Yeah, there were like long before NASA, but long before the United States existed. People knew there were other planets. They named them.
Yes.
He goes on to say, NASA is not an American thing. It's a world thing. Also not true. A lot of people don't know that. So when you start asking questions, there are not a lot of answers sometimes.
AJ Styles, good wrestler, not a good logical thinker.
No. I mean, yeah, I honestly love when wrestlers talk politics.
Sometimes you're delightfully surprised, like X-Pac.
Yeah, like X-Pac, you're like, wow, this guy has a lot of smart things to say. I like it. Or like Gail Kim just will go on a tweet storm about how much she hates Donald Trump. And be like, yeah, good for you, Gail. And then like Kevin Von Erich, who I think the world of, and I'm happy that he's found peace and serenity in Hawaii. He'll talk about how excited he is for like, Marine Le Pen's party to do well in France, and I'll think, okay, all right, well, I'm just not gonna think too much about what that means, what that says about Kevin Von Erich. But holy shit, when someone asks you, hey, do you believe the Earth is round? And instead of saying, yes, of course, the Earth is round, you go on this long answer about how NASA makes a lot of money and they're the only ones who say there are other planets. By the way, I know someone who worked for NASA. It's a U.S. government agency. I mean, it is it's not a world government organization, and also it's badly underfunded.
Yes, it's really underfunded, and there's not even a functioning rocket anymore.
No, they don't have a space program anymore.
There's like not even a space program. So like when the U.S. wants to launch things into space, they have to like request to the Russians.
Yes. Yeah, Russia and China have much more robust space programs right now than the United States because we've decided we don't care about outer space. We've already made all that outer space money, apparently.
Yeah, it's a bad idea, but whatever.
People have known there are other planets for as long as people have been able to look at the sky.
Whatever, it's just NASA telling us these things, Tom.
I mean, they had incorrect ideas about what those planets were.
So, but this brings up an interesting point. He doesn't actually claim that the Earth is flat. He claims that there's no other planets.
That's
He's not convinced that there's. Yeah, he implies that he's not convinced that there's actually other planets.
Right.
He needs more evidence in that.
That's the thing. And when you start asking those questions, you don't get a lot of answers because NASA's not a United States government organization, apparently. There are other planets. I don't even like that's the flat Earth thing. Like NBA All-Star Kyrie Irving is a flat earther, and that rapper B.O.B. is a flat earther. Like at least I've heard of that before. I've never heard anyone deny there are other planets.
Well, there you go.
It's
yeah,
just
AJ Styles. He didn't. Yeah, he's talking about other planets, but he's not talking about the flat Earth thing. So maybe he's just avoided that question entirely.
That's good politics. They ask one question, you just answer the question you wish they had asked. So AJ clearly wished Sam Roberts had asked him, are there other planets? Maybe not. He's not saying yes or no. He just needs more facts. And you're not going to get those facts from NASA because before NASA, nobody ever said there were other planets.
Except for all those dudes in the Renaissance.
Yeah. There's an H.G. Wells novel about an invasion from Mars. He didn't work for NASA.
They discovered Pluto in the early 1900s.
Yes. NASA didn't exist. People have... I don't want to get into it.
Remember that dude Galileo? I think he was around before the U.S. existed.
Yeah, seriously. That's why all the planets are named after figures from classical mythology and not named after quarterbacks, as they would be if NASA.
If you think back, do do you know the idea of horoscopes and things like that
Yeah,
involve
yeah.
planets?
Right.
That was like that was like BC times we're talking about.
That goes way back. Exactly. Yeah, and like again, like that's not science, but they knew there were other planets. That's how they cast forecasts. That's how they, or they cast horoscopes rather. They looked at the planets and thought the planets were moving around the Earth, when in reality we were moving around the sun. Well, someone ask AJ that. Does the Earth
Oh
move
yeah,
around the
Jesus,
sun?
you're gonna open up a whole can of worms there.
So in conclusion, I'm convinced Daniel Bryan is right. AJ's a flat earther. Just didn't want to answer it.
But I always think it's weird that seems like a weird thing because he's talking about he's like into sci-fi, but
Yeah.
like sci-fi is like all about going to other planets and aliens and shit. Like,
Yeah, sci-fi, and also it's super like rationalistic. Like, there's sci-fi
yeah,
is like full of like guys who are kind of like Dawkins type atheists and people who are just sort of like technology is this and this.
but generally like the people you imagine who would be flat earthers are just like extreme biblical literalists. You
Right,
know what I mean? Like they're the people who are like believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old and that the Earth is flat and the sun rotates around the Earth.
right. Yeah, not really sci-fi, but and maybe
That's not sci-fi. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like we're parsing this like it's the Zapruder film, but I mean, when he says I'm into sci-fi and conspiracy theories, maybe the sci-fi he's into is like it's not like Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury. It's more like the Greys are in cahoots with the government. They come from the flat Earth, or they come from the interior of the Earth, kind of stuff. Like the conspiracy.
Tom. The flat Earth doesn't have an interior.
No, forgive me. The aliens are coming from the interior. They're coming from the poles or something, or it's Darrows who make us angry. Come on, work with me here.
The Taros have totally screwed up your brain thought process there because the inner Earth doesn't exist in the flat Earth model.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know how you reconcile those two visions. If anyone could do it, it's the phenomenal one, though. If
That's
any
why
flat earthers
that's
are listening to the podcast, I want to apologize. Thank you for tuning in tonight.
any flat earthers are listening to the podcast, immediately stop listening to the podcast. Sorry. I don't think we have the we don't have a clear meshing of intelligence levels.
There's one homeless flat earther who is like enraged right now, shaking with rage in the public library as he listens to this.
Well, he'll be escorted out of the library for all the weird shaking.
And he's only sticking with us to hear the Shine 41 recap, which is coming up next.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess he couldn't afford Flow Slam.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not cheap, actually. It's not as these things go. So anyway, I don't want to get into the whole match by match, but we watched Shine 41 over the weekend. I mostly enjoyed it. I thought there were some things that were more off than on other Shine episodes. Like, I really thought the Lufisto Evilise match was going to be great, and it was more like B minus.
yeah, it was kind of weird. It had a weird ending,
Yes, it did.
and then Su Young didn't go to the bar for the first time ever.
I know, that was crazy. And I think part of the thing too is she was wrestling Candy Cartwright, who is not quite ready to hang on that level. Like, Candy Cartwright has a lot more limitations than some of Sue's more recent opponents, like Vanessa Craven or Evilise or even like Luscious Latasha. There were some good moments in the match, but it wasn't the sort of Su Young brutality fest that you come to expect. But I think the best match was probably the tag match. Honestly, was the Santana Garrett and Chelsea Green against Kennedy Brink and Vanessa Craven. I thought that was a really good match, and Vanessa Craven was a last-minute replacement for Amber O'Neal, who was hurt, and Chelsea Green was a last-minute replacement for Gabby Castrovinci, who was hurt. And I think both substitutions made that match much better than it would have been if nobody was hurt. I hate to say that.
It's probably true.
But, Kenny Brink is a really good brawler. Vanessa Craven is really impressive as, a giant. and Santana Garrett and Chelsea Green, who were a tag team in Stardom together, work really well together as a tag team. And Chelsea Green is still, it's not quite at Santana's level, but she's much farther along than Gabby is. So I like that match a lot. I thought that was really good. But it ended. I love. So I want to say this: if you haven't seen anything, you just go online and Google, go on Twitter and look for Su Yung, because it ended. Lufisto won, retained her championship over Ivelisse in kind of a weird way, as you mentioned. It had kind of a weird ending, although it's a Shine match, so really, it's going to have a weird ending. And then
it was just a stupid ending. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, but they have way too many of those screwy finishes for my taste. But then the lights went out. So Lufisto was doing a weird promo with the ring announcer. I don't know what they were trying to do, but it was weird. And the lights went out, and these two really thin people came out, and it was weird.
Yeah, no, it was like the lights went out, and then there was only red lights, and two punk looking waifs came out.
Yeah.
And Tom, you were saying I hope these people aren't going to wrestle because they'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they would have. They were like human skeletons.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
They did come out, and we were like, "What is this?" And it took a long time for them to all come out, and then it was this bizarre. They gave Lufisto a note. And
That's right. She read the note, and then the note basically said for the WWN Super Show at WrestleMania week that her challenger for the title is going to be Su Yung.
Well, it didn't say that. It said it said something like "Beware the Red Wedding" or something.
That's right. There's a red wedding.
And then Su Yung came out in a wedding dress and got blood poured all over her.
Yes. And the blood initially missed. Either she was standing in the wrong spot or they had miscalculated. This is one of the perils of indie wrestling. WWE would have rehearsed that 3 or 4 times. Which you can't. If you're dumping blood in the ring and shine, you just have to hope it goes right the first time. Can't rehearse it because you're gonna have blood all over the ring.
Yeah, so the blood all missed on the first one. That was absolutely true.
But it was pretty. I love watching Su Yung wrestle, and I love the horror element. And they're so over the top with it now. She's covered in blood with a crown of thorns and a wedding dress. It's just so over the top. I love it.
That was the best part of the show, I think. I was super excited about that. I thought that was a pretty cool especially after the weird nonsensical ending of the match that had just preceded it.
Yes.
The weird horror show that happened afterwards was thumbs up for that.
And I'm honestly serious. I like when indie promotions do stuff like that. It can be kind of corny and goofy, but I like that it's not just exhibition match after exhibition match. Have a story, have something weird, have a strange character, have somebody pour fake blood on someone else. That's honestly the territories wrestling stuff. Those are the angles people remember. When the Four Horsemen broke Dusty's arm, or when the Junkyard Dog was blinded, or when he came back as Stagger Lee, all this different stuff. That's it really worked because it was something different. It wasn't just two guys having a wrestling match.
Yeah, that's the kind of things that make it memorable, and it's the kind of things where ECW is really good at doing that,
Yes.
making these weird little things that got over and that wouldn't normally get over in other places. Imagine something like 911 in WWE.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What would you do with that? It just doesn't work. Imagine the Dudleys.
Right. Or the whole Tommy Dreamer Raven feud.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, geez, that wouldn't even have gone over well.
No. But they never would have had they never would have. I mean, forget some of the more outre elements. They never would have had a feud last that long, where it was a perpetual feud between. Even if they weren't wrestling each other at any given moment, they were always enemies. WWE just doesn't have the attention span for that.
That's true, and there's a lot of stuff about that. Imagine someone like the Sandman.
Yeah.
You know how it went afterwards, after he showed up in WCW and whatever. But imagine him starting somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
It just wouldn't work. but like, and that's like one of the things that indie wrestling does good is that like if you get a promotion that is willing to do things like bring someone out in a wedding dress and cover them with blood, then you've got something going on. You know what I mean? Like it's the kind of thing where, um, it's a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, they take more chances, and I want to see more indies do that because a lot of indies have adopted the pro wrestling guerrilla model of just having like a bunch of really good matches, which is great. But if there's no story connecting them, and if you're never like letting these characters develop, then you just kind of forget about them after a while. I was listening to the AIW podcast today, and those guys it's really worth your time to listen to that. It's called The Card is Going to Change. And they were saying that they build their shows like they have matches that are mostly angles, right? And sometimes the fans complain, but the whole reason is to like have those big like payoff matches where this guy screwed this person over like these different ways, and it finally builds up to like the big payoff. Whereas if it's just, hey, here's a good wrestler against another good wrestler, and neither one's a bad guy, neither one's a good guy, they're just going to do a bunch of cool moves, like great, but you're not going to get invested. And sometimes if you get really weird and do really strange stuff, you will get invested and think like, hey, I mean, legitimately, now I want to see this match because there's this lunatic like in a bloody wedding dress and like Lufisto is clearly freaked out. Like that's much more fun than just like, here's two women wrestling for a women's championship.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it was the most interesting part of the show. So I mean, I can't
It
can't say
definitely was.
anything bad about it.
It definitely was. So anyway, Shine 41. If you have Flow Slam, go back, watch it. It's pretty good. The tag team match is particularly worth your time. So we mentioned that this match between Lufisto and Su Yung is happening at the WWN Super Show. I just want to talk briefly about More Than Mania. We'll talk about it more as we get closer. I don't want to run down every show yet, but just so you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening WrestleMania week in Orlando, a whole bunch of other promotions, and a lot of them are going to be on the Flow Slam. So if you haven't signed up for Flow Slam, it's a really good time to think about it now. There's going to be Evolve Progress from the UK is coming over. Chikara is doing something. Kaiju Big Battle.
Kaiju Big Battle.
Kaiju Big Battle. Su Yung is going to be wrestling for Kaiju Big Battle. Shimmer will have a show. Beyond Wrestling is going to have a show. The Hardys are doing something called the Broken Tailgate. And then there's the WWN Super Show, which is going to pull together like a bunch of championship matches from the WWN family, like Evolve and Shine and so forth. One I'm really excited about is the Joey Janela's Spring Break, which is being put on by Game Changer Wrestling. That's happening Thursday, March 30th, like at midnight, basically. And if you know anything about Joey Janela, you know this is going to be like completely berserk and very strange. This is going to be on Flow Slam. I'm going to stay up to watch it, even though it's starting at midnight on a work night. There's some good matches, like Leo Rush versus Keith Lee is going to be really good. And then he just has like he's got Matt Riddle versus Dan Severn, and then he has like just these like the main event is going to be him against Marty Jannetty. And he made a vignette about where he's begging for money to pay Marty Jannetty to wrestle him, and people only give him like 85 cents, which is enough to buy a magic lamp. And he rubs the lamp, and the genie is Scott Hall.
What?
And he has 3 wishes. He wishes for a scooter, Weekend at Bernie's 2 on Blu-ray, and a match against Marty Jannetty. It's really good. And there's something called the Clusterfuck match. And Dink is in it, and Glacier.
All right.
So there's a bunch of and there's other wrestling shows that are not part of More Than Mania. There's one, I think it's Sunday morning, and it's called like Pile Drivers and Pancakes. And I know the main event is Jake Manning versus Su Yung. There's a bunch of stuff happening. We'll talk about more of some of these lineups as they become solidified. But anyway, it's going to be a big week in Orlando, and it should be a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm excited for it. If I was going to Orlando, I would be going for this stuff, not for Mania. Because who wants to like be in a football stadium and watch wrestling? I mean, a lot of people is the answer.
Tom.
But not me. Like, you're gonna pay $100 and like sit way up, and I don't know. I'd much rather spread that $100 amongst 3 or 4 other shows and get to see Glacier.
Yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, you're gonna pay $100 for bad seats at WrestleMania.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, you're gonna be sitting like way up in the nosebleed section. The original main event Joey Janela wanted was him wrestling the Cash Me Outside girl. And he apparently like had someone contact her, but she said no.
Damn.
That would have been amazing. So all right, the last thing we're gonna do, we'll be doing this as we get closer to Mania. We're just gonna give our hot takes on possible Mania matchups. And this week I want to talk about Shane McMahon versus Planet Denier AJ Styles. This is I think we're set to have this one because they talked about it on WWE programming on the Peter Rosenberg show after Raw this week. So I think we're pretty much guaranteed to have this match. And they were setting it up with AJ and Shane fighting backstage last week at SmackDown, in which Michael Hayes appeared like an Oompa Loompa, dressed entirely in purple.
Well, all right. At least Michael Hayes is still Michael Hayes.
So Michael Hayes. So what do you think about AJ versus Shane?
Like Corey Graves, I am not interested.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
What a waste.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like what are you gonna do with that? It's not like Shane McMahon is gonna give us a 5-star match. I mean, it's a good idea if you're Shane McMahon and you want like people to be like, oh, Shane McMahon can still have a good match. It's because AJ Styles is gonna carry that match.
Right. And is it sort of worth it to further AJ's legend as the guy who can have a good match with anyone? Like, I'd rather just see a great, fantastic, high-level match between AJ. I would rather see John Cena and AJ Styles again.
Yeah, I'd be excited for that. I mean, let's be honest. WrestleMania never has many matches that are good as Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they're doing something different with WrestleMania. But, like, Styles and Cena at WrestleMania would be amazing. It would tear the house down. And I think Corey Graves is also right to say that, like, Shane McMahon is a guy who kind of hasn't, like, people think about these stunts that he's done in the past, but, like, he's not a wrestler. And all credit to him for doing those stunts. Those are dangerous things that he does. He doesn't have to do them. But it's not like, you know, his thing with Undertaker was terrible, and we said it would be terrible. And unquestionably his match with AJ will be better. From a wrestling.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a waste. Like, why? You might as well put AJ Styles in a battle royal. Like, what's the point of having arguably one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world right now, working for your company if he's going to be wrestling non-wrestlers? Like, what is the point?
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. I just feel like, why would you do that? Why waste the slot? Why waste the talent?
And it's a really short period of time to build up a convincing feud, too. Like, they had words backstage after a show last week, but, you know, who cares? Like, what? It's not the kind of, like, thing where they had at least the Undertaker, which I thought was dumb, but they still have the storyline idea that if Shane beat the Undertaker, he'd get control of Raw. There's not even that. It's just sort of the guy who runs SmackDown is mad at one of the people who wrestles on SmackDown. It just doesn't. Who cares?
Yeah. That's kind of what it is. I mean, what do you do with that?
If they were fighting over NASA, then I would be interested.
Fighting over NASA. Fighting over if there are planets or not.
I once watched a Loser Leaves the Planet match between Tracy Smothers and the lead singer of Gwar.
Tracy Smothers win?
He won. But then he said he hated the people of Earth so much he was going to leave Earth anyway. Has not left Earth, to my knowledge.
Oh, Tracy Smothers. Such a liar.
Yeah, did not leave the planet. The lead singer of Gwar left the planet in a different way.
Yeah, he left the planet in a slightly sadder way.
A slightly sadder way. A heroin overdose way.
Oh, that's the worst way.
That is the worst way to leave the planet. Although if you did die of a heroin overdose and you're listening to the podcast tonight, thank you for tuning in. So anyway, neither one of us is big on Shane versus AJ. Next week, I'll try to find a matchup that we might be excited about, so we don't or maybe one that we disagree on.
Is there going to be one that we disagree on?
I don't think so. I
It's
don't know.
possible.
Maybe one
Could
of the
happen.
women. It could happen. It could happen. Maybe. No, I'm running in my mind the matches, and I think we're going to like the same ones and hate the same ones. But you never know. Maybe they'll make a match that I'll be really excited about that you'll think would be terrible, or that you'll be excited about that I think is terrible. They won't bring back anything as interesting as it's like a 6-man scramble with Dink and Glacier and a few others.
I'd be excited for that.
Yeah, you kidding me? I'd love that. That's the Joey Janela thing. All right, so that does it for this week.
That will do it. We got nothing else.
We got nothing else, and there's nothing coming up this weekend. No WWE pay-per-views. Flow Slam is all West Side Wrestling, the German company, which I haven't totally gotten into. I'm sure it's worth watching, but I haven't delved into West Side Wrestling. What do you want? There's a lot of stuff to keep up with.
You got a lot to keep up with. You can't keep up with everything.
I don't know what's happening in wrestling in Germany. I will be in Ireland at any rate this weekend.
Tom is going to Ireland for St. Patrick's Day because he's a tourist.
Because I'm a tourist and a chump. But I'll be back in time for the podcast next week. But this weekend I won't be watching any wrestling. There's a really good Northeast Wrestling show in Connecticut this weekend, and I kind of wish I could see it. Ireland's going to be more fun, don't get me wrong, but there's some good matches for Northeast Wrestling. I posted the poster on the website, closetofanxiety.tumblr.com. If you're interested to see what's going on in Northeast Wrestling, which, by the way, is available through the High Spot streaming network, you can go and check it out. You can see all the matchups. Leo Rush is going to be there. Keith Lee is going to be there. Dijak is going to be there. War King Hansen is going to be there.
You see War King Hansen now?
He's War King Hansen in Northeast Wrestling because he won their their version of the King of the Ring tournament.
Oh.
Mike Bennett is going to be there, and he might say something funny about TNA. Fuck that owl.
Fuck that owl.
So, closetofanxiety.tumblr.com. That's one of the ways you can follow us. You can also go to hakujinjoe.tumblr.com. You can kind of follow us on Twitter. Joe doesn't usually check Twitter. He's at xcornmuffinx. I'm at TJ Breen. I'm off Twitter for Lent. I will occasionally check Twitter, but I'm not tweeting. Like with a storm we had in this part of the country, I would check the meteorologist on Twitter, and I had to check Revy Sky's angry "fuck that owl" tweets. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything you can do about that. You got to check those. I mean, potentially you don't have to check them on Twitter, though. They're, like, cataloged on...
No, I know, that's true. You can just go to the wrestling websites and the news sites.
That's how I saw them. I didn't check Twitter.
Yeah, so, and then you can buy our book. The details are in the YouTube description. It's a book about wrestling. It's a book about horror. Two great things that go great together.
They surprisingly go great together. Sounds weird, but you would be surprised.
It works. All right, I think that's it. We'll be back next week, hopefully, if I don't get detained in Ireland or something goes wrong with the plane. Hopefully that none of that happens, and I'm back, and we'll be talking. Well, we might have some Teddy Hart trial news. Who knows? All kinds of stuff next week. If you're homeless, if you don't think there are other planets, if you died of a heroin overdose, tune in. And if none of those things apply to you, tune in anyway.
All right, so I guess we'll see you guys next time.